Hi, my name is Master Mike Dunchuk, and I'm here at Ancient Arts Irvine in California. Today, I'm going to be explaining about a concept that we call Yo Wan Hua, which is the theory of motion in Hapkido. Now, Hapkido is what we call a soft martial art, meaning that in principle, its movements are based on using an opponent's energy against them rather than attacking them with your own force and energy. So the idea behind Hapkido is to somehow receive energy from your opponent, their aggression, their antagonism, and reverse it so that it is the very fuel that leads to the opponent's defeat. But that's easier said than done. So in Hapkido we have a philosophy, and that's the topic I'm talking about today. It's called Yo Wan Hua, and I'm going to write it on the board here. We have Yo, we have Wan, and we have Hua. Now, Yo is something related to flowing or swimming. It's the same word as in other Oriental languages referring to swimming or smooth motion. And this first principle in Hapkido means that when you're encountering the resistance or the strength of your opponent, you can't meet it head on. You have to swim with it. You have to flow with it. You have to receive it and recycle it back. You can't tense up. You can't pit your own strength against the strength that you're receiving. You can't make it into an arm wrestling match. You have to make it into a rowing or a kind of snaring or a redirecting. And then the next concept, or I should say the second word in the phrase, Wan, refers to a circle, or at least to circularity. Wan is cognate with other Oriental languages like Chinese, where the word is yuan for circle. And that means that when you, again, are encountering your opponent's antagonism or their energy, one cannot simply resist with equal and opposite energy. One has to redirect, and specifically, one has to meet their linear force with a circular movement. Now the thing about muscles is, every muscle in our body just about is a motivator for a bone, and the bone is a lever. And levers, they apply force in a single vector, a single direction. So we see that in an arm wrestling match. One person's arm is pressing a force vector this way, the other person's arm is pressing a force vector the opposite way. And whoever has the strongest force is the one who wins the arm wrestling match. The same principle applies in tug of war. The team with the most strength, their vector of force wins. But if you as a fighter are the weaker of the two, you cannot play by those rules. You cannot win the match or have a hope to win if you are pitting your strength against the opponent's strength. So the idea is that when their line of force comes, you meet it not with an equal and opposite vector of force, but with a spiraling circle. And the feeling is like, well, I don't know if you've ever been surfing or just swimming in the ocean and a giant wave has come and crashed over your head, and you've been wrapped up in that wash, that kind of spin cycle, and you've struck out for the surface, but because you're being spun all over, you don't know quite where the surface is, you don't quite know where up is. That's the feeling that you're going for with Wan, when the opponent's strength is holding you in place. By spiraling, you give them something that they cannot quite oppose. There's no single line of force that they can use to meet your circle, because what's the opposite of a circle? Lastly, We have the concept Hua. Now, Hua generally means, at least in this context, harmony. And it means harmony of body movement. It also means reciprocal movement, especially reciprocal movement to the circle. So generally in any Hapkido technique, where there is a round cresting or circular curve of movement that you're applying, somewhere to make the technique the most effective, you have to apply an equal and opposite curve that goes the other direction. So for example, if I have a Kaloki arm bar and I'm circling this way with my hand on their elbow as I hold their wrist here, the circle that I'm applying with my right hand has to be answered with an equal and opposite circle with my left hand. So the best application of that technique will not merely be the circularity on the top at the elbow, but will be met with that reciprocal with my hand curving under here. So the best kind of has like a bicycle pedal motion like this, where one is going the opposite direction, or at least is balancing out the curve of that circle. It's the same with any technique. If I'm doing an arm lock like this or a hand lock like this, the circularity that I'm applying with the hand here has to be met with a body circularity that comes from under. So there's that aspect. The other aspect of Hua, or harmony, actually relates to the word or phrase Hapkido itself. Hap is the same word as I in Japanese and he in Chinese, and it relates to a concept of unity. So to say Hapkido is the way of uniting with ki, or specifically with ki-based movement. Ki movement, or chi movement, if you've ever watched Taiji, is movement that unites the whole body. In Taiji, you don't just move your arm, you move the whole body together. And the Hapkido techniques that work are the ones that don't just move the local body parts, the arms and the shoulder joints, but somehow incorporate the movement of the whole body into the technique. So when we take Yo Wan Hua as a whole complete phrase, it describes all these concepts combined. And it is the ideal that you are reaching for as you train in Hapkido. Hapkido or Hapkido practitioners in Korea will refer to each other's skill and say, oh, how's his Yo Wan Hua? Or, oh, so-and-so has really good Yo Wan Hua. And what they mean is that when you watch that person's movements, there's an evidence of the unity and the flow and the combination and the circularity all in the way they move. They may have effective techniques, but it's not just brutal based on force, but there's something united in their application. So that is what you're going for as you train Hapkido. And when someone mentions Yo Wan Hua, you'll know exactly what they're talking about.